Good morning. How's everybody doing? Just make sure there's audio. Looks like there's audio. You'll let me know if there's not. Good morning. Good morning. Florida this summer. That's gonna be too warm. You're gonna go to the opposite end of the spectrum there. I think I would definitely perish uh if I was in Florida for the summer. No, that's not true. We vacation in warm places as well. Um, but we don't have to leave. Usually it's like 40 degrees here in the summer now. It's a strange place. Right now it's I think it's like minus 35 is what that said. So in Fahrenheit talk for those people who don't use Celsius, that's minus 31. So it's getting cold enough to get parity is how cold it is. Um, was it last night? I think I was looking it up and it was like minus 50 just outside town, and then we had minus 42 it got down to. Got so cold. I don't know how it happened, but Alberta ran out of power too last night. All our phones went off and I was like, but who's using all the power in the winter? You got a low cost furnace running, and that's what you need to stay sustained. But clearly, all those EVs out there. Let's put our tinfoil hats on. That's the problem. EVs, Greg. Yeah. Honestly, I Bray, I say tinfoil hat, but I think so. That's the difference, right? They they get half the mileage, so they're always plugged in and charging. And I mean, it's crazy times when it gets that cold, though. My car didn't even start. I had to get rescued at work. It was quite the thing. Uh, but as you can see, Greg is in his EV about 5 hours away. But in EV talk, it's a 450-kilometer drive, so he'll be back next Thursday if he leaves this morning. Um, I tease him. It's fine. I tease. I did last year. I had the opportunity to ride with Greg to Banff, which is like 2 hours and 40 minutes maybe from where we are. It's a nice national park, but it was winter out, and we left at 7 in the morning, and we got there at 4 in the afternoon. So, I mean, we did stop for lunch. I'll throw that in there, but um, yeah, it's crazy, and it looks like he's not even in chat to defend his honor. So, if anybody wants to make fun today, it's Greg's turn. Usually, I'm not here, so um, it's a good day to be inside and warm. Legit. I looked at the weather yesterday and I'm not going out. I'm not going out today either. Um, got a few things today. Hopefully we could spark some interesting conversation in the chat. As I'd like to hear, your guys' opinions. Just fixed my cable here. Sorry, on kind of some of the topics today. Um, the hats are aluminum foil. They don't use tin anymore. Sorry, aluminum foil. Let's just call them shiny hats. We'll get right to the point. So we're gonna change how we do this next kind of part, but I'm gonna push the button today, and then we're gonna have post roll and pre roll of Patreon stuff. But for today, I pushed the button. So thanks all the Patreons. You guys are important to us, and 2024 being the first stream, you're even more important to us. It's a new year, and we appreciate you so much. So, thank you for keeping the website going. Lots of the live stream tools that we use are supported by you guys. So, thanks so much. We appreciate you. If your name's on that list, you're awesome. But if you want to join the party and the fun, Discord's always up. We got interesting stuff. Sometimes it's just banter, but sometimes we've got some interesting convos in there, and it's patreon.com/3D Make It if you want to join. The other thing you can do is head on over to 3dmakeit.ca there. and check out all the links and subscription places. Our Instagram's been hacked for about 4 years, and we have yet to fix anything about it. I mean, so if you see Instagram posts from us, it's not us. it's it's an imposter 3D make it, which there's actually a few um now. So that's the way it is. So welcome on this most professional 3D printing day of 3D printing church. It's good to be back. Happy New Year's. Haven't seen you guys since 2024 or 2023. Um, I think Greg will be back next week, and that's when we're going to be rolling like the full Clipper session. I think we took about 4 weeks on the Clipper, so we're going to take about 4 weeks on Clipper. Actually, 2, I think. You'll see why it's a little bit less. So there's a few things. 2023 happened, and we made it to next year, and everybody has their everybody has videos out, or on their websites out, like, oh, what printers do you buy in 2024, and best printer 2024. I'm like, dude, it's been 2 weeks. It's the best printer from 2023, right? But I do want to kind of take just a really quick look back and then start on a topic that I have for today. I have a couple topics today, and if you guys want to, of course, ask or have a topic or whatever, pop it in chat. Happy to check it out. So in 2023, we saw the very first, which is weird because we'll go back in history a little more, but we saw a push that a lot of newer printers came out at the beginning of 2023 or end of 2022. So like December 2022. We're talking almost 2023. So let's call it 2023. And those printers that were coming out were Core XY. Because we had this shift, right? We had this shift in the community, and hobbyist 3D printing, that people with hobby printers were modifying those printers so that they could print quickly, right? And they wanted to print fast. We're talking like things like the 15-minute benchy that actually looked good this year was a thing. And people were really driving their printers, right? We were getting rid of things like rollers and installing linear rail where we could. And companies, and this company is going to be mentioned a few times today, but companies like Bamboo Lab and came out, and they had a printer that, well, could print fast. So Bamboo had like the X1 Carbon and the P1P this year, and those are very quick printers. They're Core XY printers, and we actually have a video from way back on a Core XY that we put together and stuff. But if you don't know, Core XY is the bed goes up and down, instead of the gantry where the nozzle is. The X, it goes up and down. So that's the difference. It's a static bed versus the bed slinger. So that's where the bed, the y-axis, is just going back and forth like this, and we'll come back to that in a second. So 2023 at the beginning of the year saw all of these, like, so we had the Bamboo Lab came out with one. I feel like Voron this year took off more, or in 2023 took off more than it ever had. We had things like the Prusa Core XY started shipping. It wasn't new, but it started shipping. We also had things like the Creality K1. So I had the opportunity to see a few of those up in Calgary. I haven't actually printed on any of those ones yet. But again, the K1, it was a Core XY. The K stands for Clipper. So we had companies printing faster, moving towards Clipper. And that was a big trend this year. Like, it seemed like almost every company wanted to say, hey, our printer is compatible with Clipper, right? So when we take that walk through 2023, it's really speed, and Clipper was going on everything, and rightly so. It's good firmware. And then at the end of 2023, we saw another interesting thing happen, and it's one of the topics today. I will talk maybe a little bit more about it. But the other thing that happened at the end of 2023 um, is firmware was cracked for Bamboo Labs. So um, if you don't know, I think most people realize now, but your 3D printer runs firmware. And for the most part, since 2018, lots of hobby level let's say printers that are like less than 1600 US and down, have open firmware. And the reason is those printing companies don't make in-house firmware, so they take stuff like Marlin, which we've talked about, and we did that config thing last year on it. Um, but Marlin is a firmware that they would use, very popular, configure it, and then put it on the printer. And Creality, way back when, in like 2016 maybe, the years are the years get foggy as they go on. But like they were using Marlin, and then they were not sharing their code for Marlin. And Marlin, being an open firmware, said, "Yo, we're open firmware. You gotta, we're open source, open platform. You've got to share your code because it's not yours. You're just configuring it for your printer." And so that's really where we saw, like, let's say the pre 2023 era up to the middle maybe of 2023. And so firmware was a thing that was just readily available. And then we had printers like Bamboo Labs. And Bamboo Labs, if you don't know or seen, they were again a bigger takeoff. I think they were even a Kickstarter, if I remember. Maybe if one of you remember, you could let me know. Or I think they did Kickstart. But Bamboo Labs was there, and they had this printer for everybody, and people were buying it like hotcakes. Like you can go. I was My YouTube bro flipped over to Adam Savage's Tested the other day, and he had two Bamboo Lab printers sitting in his garage. Right, we're actually buying one to Greg and I to bring down for the office where we are. They're going everywhere. So Bamboo Labs had great printers. They were good builds, right? Some people weren't away from them. You can go out and read them. I haven't had enough experience to tell you that they're great or bad yet, but I do know that they're very integrated with cloud functions and server calls to use like the remote printed stuff, and that stuff is not in your locale. It goes away to servers that are not usually in your country. Um, Bamboo Labs firmware was closed though. So coming back to the firmware, and the firmware being closed isn't a bad thing. When you think about closed firmware, almost, let's say 70% at least of the stuff you use is closed firmware. Your car, your watch, right? If you have an iPhone, that's closed. You can't sideload things or like without what they term jailbreaking, and that's exactly what happened to Bamboo Labs at the end of the year of 2023. And they said, "Oh, we're just gonna shut the back door down that let people jailbreak, and that's it." Well, that wasn't it. Spoiler alert. So 2024, Bamboo Lab says they're going to have a firmware version available to you if you're willing to void your warranty that will let you sideload stuff and jailbreak the firmware to use the, I think it's called X1 Plus. I think that was the firmware that the people broke to use as what they named it. So if you're not familiar, jailbreaking, like I said, on an iPhone or a similar device, even a printer, lets you put stuff on that the manufacturer didn't intend. So did we win? 2024, here we are. That was a lot of preamble in 2023, but 2024, the first thing news-wise that happened was Bamboo Labs backed down, and they did say, well, you know what? If you want to, go ahead, but we're not going to support if anything happens to your printer after that. And I mean, rightly so. Like Bamboo Labs hard stance could have lost them customers because, let's face it, lots of people like, okay, I'm gonna call us the old guard, but lots of people that have been in like the hobby of 3D printing. So probably if you watch this channel, you're in the hobby of 3D printing. You like to tinker. You like to um maybe like tootle around your printer a little bit, which is great. We love it. We do it all the time, right? We change firmwares. We change parts. Um, but like the hobbyist people would have walked away from Bamboo Labs because that's a huge thing, right? It's kind of why when we go back in history, like I was talking about, it's kind of why we had this shift in. We went from very closed firmware with MakerBot to very open firmware eventually, and then we swung back, and once you give people a taste of the candy, they don't they want to go back, right? They want what they know, and that's fair. And so towards the end of 2023, that happened, and the Core XY revolution happened. Even though it wasn't a revolution, Core XY is kind of where we actually started with RepRap, but RepRap wasn't like a MakerBot movement, so they really couldn't enter that form factor very well, so they went to the bed slinger. But when and I think a few guys have bought these, the A1 Mini or the A1, new printers from Bamboo. So um, let's. I mean, we're gonna look at them in a second, but lo and behold, we're back to bed slingers. A part of the reason for that is the bed slinger format is something that people are very, very used to. It can come in at a cheaper cost if you do it very wrong. um, One huge difference, though, is the frame is a lot smaller on a bed slinger because you don't have to support all the moving parts. So Core XY is usually a square, like a cube, whereas these bed slingers are usually like you have uprights and then a square base. So you do save on material, and they are cheaper to produce. And for the most part, they are okay with speed. They will never print as fast as a Core XY just because of that motion on the bed. They have to throw the bed back and forth. But that came back. So we had this full circle. We had a revolution at the beginning, and then we came back and we're like, well, maybe some people still want this, so let's use it. Like I said, we'll show some stuff in a second here. I need to get the thing that pops messages up, and I have it now. Thanks, guys. Thanks to you. I haven't set it up, but I have the thing that pops comments up on the screen now, in the software. So that's coming, which will be sweet. I just got to set that up. So Ray says they're like, yeah, so Bamboo Lab, and I mean, it's not to be unexpected. They're like, Ray just has the comment in there. They're like any other printer. They have problems. I mean, you could buy a $4,000 Ultimaker, and the X gantry falls off all the time. Lots of people zip tie the broken ABS part on the one side, and that's how they make it work. So, and then the other comment here is for some people, and this was like when we were talking about like the firmware division and stuff, but for some people, it's like, hold my beer, I can get into that, right? It's very true, right? Sometimes it's not about even. Sometimes it's not even about what you gain from jailbreaking that firmware. It's just the fact that you did it, right? I know people used to be like, "Whoa, I jailbroke my iPhone and now I can put the better weather app on it." And it's like, okay, but does it still tell you the same temperature? If you have a really good reason to jailbreak, then and you're adding some functionality, do it. Otherwise, I would think twice, especially in like this Bamboo Lab case, because you're looking at voiding your warranty, and that is not a small thing to toy with. Um, YouTube is saying that there's issues with the stream. Anybody notice any frame drops or slow stutters, that kind of stuff? Just if you have, pop it in the chat. Appreciate it. So that's kind of like that was 2023 and into 2024. And that's why I say 2024 is much the same. But I'm really excited about a few things that have happened, like even in the last 7 days. So I'm going to pose a question to you because this is where it started for me this week. I had somebody say, hey, you know what? I need a 3D printer. We have this much of a budget. And it was a healthy budget, but we have a budget. And I want a 3D printer that can print stronger material. So I said, yeah, no worries. We can do that. So I, you know, it's an interesting problem. So the first material that's stronger than a normal, we have fleets of Ender 3s. Okay, let's start there. And the first material that's stronger that you can print really with an Ender 3 might be PETG. And I don't count that because PETG can technically be printed on a stock printer as long as you upgrade like the tube, right? Because it's really the heat that gets you. PETG doesn't have like any real other strict requirements of a normal printer other than maybe like the fan when you slice. So PETG, I took off the list because we can already do that. So the next strongest material, I bet you all can guess what it might be. In my mind was ABS. ABS is a very strong material, right? We use it all over the place. It's, yeah, ASA, ABS, yeah, same thing. I mean, well, okay, slightly different chemically speaking, but same thing. So I went to the ABS in my head, and then what that means to most of us is an enclosure, and not necessarily like a heated enclosure, but a heated enclosure is nice because if you can bring that air temperature up without relying on the passivity of the heat bed and hot end just to warm the chamber. Now, if you guys know, this is one point I want to make because it came up in the conversation. I have an Ender 3 that I print my ABS and ASA on. It's in my garage. I put like that silver shiny insulation foam, made a box around it. Prints fine. It has an internal thermostat or thermistor, sorry, so I can actually see what the temperature is just of the passive thing in the box. So the box is roughly, let's say 500 by 500 by 500. Just throw it out there. No active heating. It's just four corners. It has a door with the same material that mostly seals. So like mostly seals. It's true. There's little gaps here and there, but just with like passivity and that heating happening from the bed and the nozzle, the chamber can actually usually stay at about 45 degrees, which is pretty warmer than I thought it would ever get to, actually, just with passive. And ABS prints pretty okay in it. I printed all of Greg's Voron with it. I'm printing him some other parts for his car. And I printed like a part for me in it. But you can tell by my sentence here, I haven't printed like a whole lot of stuff because if I want to print like a quick bracket or something, for example, this mic, it's held to the wall on a shelf that has two it has two 3D printed PLA brackets on it, and those are fine. But ABS, that was the next step. And of course we could say, yeah, we can print ABS, we can just do it in an Ender 3 and build an enclosure, but it didn't stop there. So the first one, and let's see if I can do this right. Hopefully I have it. Yes. The first printer, well, it wasn't the first, actually. I'm going to put these in order so you can kind of see what we're looking at. But, so the Surmoon, came to mind, and there's, this is the original Surmoon. I wanted the D3 Pro. Anyway, Surmoon D3 Pro. Let's see if we can find it. Surmoon D3 Pro. Just go to a website where it actually has the picture you want, right? Right? So a Surmoon came to mind, and the D3 Pro specifically. It has really good features such as IDEX is one. You note though, it's in a box, so it's already enclosed. It has a filter on it. It does have keep trying to scroll on my OBS and it's moving the video around. Sorry. Um, so you can see it has pretty much all the basic bells and whistles. So the Surmoon comes in with like dual printing IDEX. It has like auto probing. It has well, this is really what it has. Diverse filament for broad application. Obviously it doesn't have that, but it does. It can operate those things. This one as well. So this is kind of where the conversation starts with the strong printing ABS ASA. If you have a heated build chamber and like a build chamber, sorry, and thermostatic is the word for that. I mean, we can get into the passive stuff, but a heated chamber gives you the best results, especially for like large prints with big overhangs. ABS just loves to warp, and I know lots of you have printed ABS before that are in the group here, but the Surmoon is a heck of a printer. Came to mind just because of the heated chamber and something that we needed, kind of that way. It does have filters and HEPA stuff too. ABS off gases styrene, right? So you got to take care of that somehow, either by not being in the room and giving enough time for the air to clear, putting it a window, or sending it through a filter. So this guy does have it. And it's quick heating, hot end and bed. Probably it's a 24-volt printer, so it probably heats up pretty quick. So like this printer is something that I was looking at as well because like it has 300-degree hot end, which that's pretty warm. Your Ender 3, however, can do that with a few upgrades. All metal direct drive, so also really good features there. And then the other thing with like prints, and you can see it in the picture here. I'm not sure if that's a render or not. I can't tell. It almost looks like a render. It might have been printed on there, but I'm not sure. But anyway, the idea is you can use PVA or some sort of dissolvable or breakawayable, like a plastic that doesn't stick to the other plastic support, right? With the IDEX or your complex mechanical parts. So like this could be a manifold or a hookup for something that would be, you can see like it's literally straight at the back angle there. No way you're printing that without support, and this printer can do it. So this is kind of where we started. Hashtag not sponsored either by Spool or Creality. This is just where kind of the conversation started. Actually, the original conversation is I want to print carbon fiber, and then we explained, well, that doesn't really make it stronger. It makes it super pretty, right? Carbon fiber filament makes stuff pretty, but usually it's just carbon fiber filled. There's a few that actually can access the strength quality of carbon fiber, but usually it's just a fill. Okay, so this printer came to mind, has all the bells, all the whistles. You can see that it's pretty well. They have the supported materials, is what I'm trying to get at here. And of course, since it's enclosed, ABS, ASA, polycarb are on the list. Strong materials, right? Good choice. And then I thought to myself, well, I remember years ago of a brand called CreateBot. And so I looked at these ones too. I don't know if you guys, CreateBot, they're an interesting company. I don't know if you guys have seen them before. Angus from Maker's Muse, I do believe, was the one person I saw on YouTube a few years ago now, maybe 3 or 4, that actually did like a review on them. The reason for that is these are not inexpensive printers, but when you think about like the specs that they do offer, So they offer, a decent sized build plate. They do offer dual extrusion, right? They offer a wider variety of supported materials. And if you take a trip over to the right side of the screen, you'll see why. These printers can print 420C at the hot end, so they have a high temp hot end, which actually puts them into the ability to print things like peak. Um, and I guess if they can print peak, they could print PEKK and probably Ultim. Um, as well. They list carbon fiber, but again, that's a fill. But they can do nylon, polycarb, right? And so they do have a heated chamber too, which, if you look, the heated chamber goes to, shocker, 70 degrees. So they do have the build plate in them is more engineering based than the others, though. So like they can support the engineering materials you will throw at them. But again, this is not a new printer, so that might keep some people away from CreateBot. Um, they've been around for a bit, but again, it answers that question that we had that started this conversation is I want to print strong. So we have two good printers here with heated chambers. Sir Moon for us that's Canadian, so it's $4,000. And I think Derek, I think Spool carries CreateBot if I remember now. I'm gonna click through your website. let's let's just get to it. Price high. So the CreateBot we were looking at is $5,600, and it's on a pre-order right now. So the one CreateBot that we were just looking at, so this guy here, is so what was that like? We had $1,400 more. Um, but again, these are professional engineering grade. However, that's what the Sir Moon um, also fills into that or falls into that category. Sorry. So two really good choices, and then I'm sitting in the room, and inevitably this happens. Well, yeah, those are good printers. Remember, we wanted to print strong. We need ABS, ASA, maybe a heated chamber, maybe not. But then this came into the room. Well, why don't we just get an X1 carbon? Okay, so here's X1 carbon, and they're great printers. And like honestly, I'm not sure. And Ray could probably answer this off the top of your head, Ray. I'm not sure what kind of nozzle comes with it. But to print higher temperature, you should have all metal, or at the very least something that like upgraded PTFE tube and not be in the room. But this came up, and with the AMS, and remember the problem is printing strong. Okay, so there's a HS one. And it's like I said, it's enclosed. It's gonna work on passivity here. And we do lose, like we're back down to 300 degrees. Um, that picture flips so fast. Stop it. There it is. Right, but it's direct drive. You can see their extruder. Um, it's the chamber temp on this guy, but they did come out, and I'll show you in a minute. So like it can almost do it, and like I would give it really close. But what do we all know is the biggest feature for a Bamboo Lab carbon, right? And that's probably not spaghetti detection. It's this. It's right here. It's this. It's the AMS, right? One of the biggest things that Bamboo Lab has going for them is the ecosystem. And so the X1 carbon, as Ray mentioned, has no heated chamber. So the chamber temperature they give is passive. So they're banking on the hot end and the hot bed to heat it up. But this is what people want to buy the Bamboo, and this is why it came into the conversation, and this is why we're probably getting one. Except put a pin in that right now. So the AMS lets you print multicolor, multi-material. It's great. It's one nozzle. So you do lose stuff like, remember, so when we were talking like the Surmoon or the CreateBot, both of them, I don't know if you can see that on there. It's right there. It's really tiny for me, but it might be okay for you. But both of them have IDEX um, capable print ends, hot ends. So like we are using two different nozzles for two different materials, which is often more preferable than like running your support material of PVA through the same nozzle that you're going to be running, say, ABS. It complicates the system and it can and cause clogging or print abnormalities, shall we say. But this is why the AMS, this is why people love the Bamboo Lab. It's the ecosystem. If it was just the printer, I don't think the printer would be that popular. Like lots of people still buy the P1P, right? But they forget of another printer's existence, K1, that can actually perform just as well as the other printers in the Bamboo lineup, but for like sub $1,000 Canadian, where I think all the Bamboos are over 1,000 or just kissing 1,000. So the Bamboo Labs, it came up and it has all these great features. It has the X1 Carbon, and like the flagship has like all of the spaghetti, the LiDAR, right? It has it has this screen that actually they take credit for other features for, but they have vibration, auto leveling, right? Things that other printers have, but they're just throwing on their website. So again, cool printer, but this doesn't even come close to like the advantages of a heated chamber. Now, I'm sure Ray, maybe I'm gonna ask Ray because I know he has one. And I know we have some A1s in the group that are on order or shipped. But Ray, have you done some ABS in your Bamboo slab? I want to say it's going to print fine for one reason. ABS, as long as you control the drafts and have a semi-consistent heat of around that like 35, it should be okay, but 70 is better, obviously, right? No drafts, that kind of stuff. So the Bamboo Lab exists, and then we did talk. This tab is up on my screen specifically for this. If you wanted a printer that was like a Bamboo Labs without the KMS or the AMS, sorry, not KMS, this is it, right? There's a few others out there, but like you can get these printers, the K1. Let's go back to my favorite website. Let's go back to my favorite website, Spool 3D, and let's look for the K1s just to see the cost on them. I want to say they're like $800 or so, but it's been a while since I looked at them, like 3 days. So yeah, here's so you can see the P1 and the Bamboo Lab with the AMS P1 is like $12.84. Let's go here. Let's just check this out. Looking for a box that has a K1, people. Ba-ba! Yeah, $709, or you can get the Max, which is actually a bigger printer, for $1249. So you're getting a little more real estate there. But then again, like you get most of the features that were offered by the Bamboo, by the original Bamboo, and that's kind of like what happened. Bamboo had this great printer, and then other manufacturers were like, oh man, we better catch up to this because it could be a problem. Turns out it wasn't, but it could have been, right? And as Ray mentioned, the K1 firmware is completely open, and I think it's pointing out that Bamboo Labs didn't open all of their firmware. They opened one specific printer's firmware. So I still think that they will be holding back some of their firmware. Now, this is where the twist comes into the conversation. The other day, Bamboo Labs announced this. So you can see they have consumer printers on top. So they have the X1 Carbon up there. They have the P1P. We talked about the A1 and A1 Mini. The AMS, they built an AMS for both of those printers, so you could still take advantage of the multi-material printer there. It's at the bottom. It's this. Why whatever is this printer, you might ask? This printer is the answer for a lot of problems when it comes to the question that we had, because we do want to print stronger. The heated chamber makes it better, and enter the Bamboo One X1E. Again, not sponsored. In fact, if you watch some of the past streams, you would notice that I was like, "Oh yeah, Bamboo Labs, what a right." Like, it was one of those things where I knew of their existence. I wasn't like running out the door to grab one. This printer here has one thing that the X1 Carbon does not. It has a few things, but the most important one to me and to the question that we had was this: active heating controlled chamber. Blah, 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 blah. I talk good. Active heating and controlled chamber temp. So the K1E has active chamber heating. It has 320 degree nozzle, and if I remember correctly, they make it has a black nozzle on it that can go hotter. But so we start getting like all of the features from the X1 Carbon built into here. Is I think they re-engineered some of the framing. I think that a lot of the features though, like the vibration, like Spaghetti Detective, um, and some of the AMS stuff is similar. But you can see here's the and this one irks me a little bit, and you'll see why. But so we're given WPA2 capability with Wi-Fi, and this one has WAP2. No, enterprise on a printer is stupid. You're not gonna like. For the most part, most enterprises have a network that is for like IoT or other devices that can't be 100% trusted on production, but we know have to have an internet connection. So this section is really cool, and like it's neat that they do this, but the WPA2 protocol has been broken for a while, and so is 3 for that matter. But yeah, we're on 3 now, so they probably just used a generic card or a chipset that they already had and turned a feature on. But you can see that like it has Ethernet support too, which is nice. The Ethernet support here is it's only 100, but 100 is really all you need for printing. Then you can see here that they just added the word superior and ideal to their listings of filaments for the right, like, so the last line does fall off. So PPA carbon fiber, PPS and PPS carbon fiber, CF carbon fiber to GF. It says you can't, which is fair. Nylon and those things at the again at bigger prints can become problematic without active heating. So yeah, and then again we talked about a heated chamber at 60 degrees, so it's not quite the 70 of their competitors, but 60 degrees is more than enough to print most things with giving a greater success ratio, because sometimes with those open air prints you still do lose them, right? So that's kind of like the big news, right? They changed, like, it's an all metal hot end steel hardened, but you can see the temperature's a little different. Now, I do want to point out that on the Bamboo Lab, we do have direct-ish drive. Where do we go? They had a picture of it in here, sorry. But you can see, like, the PTFE tube does come fairly low into the chamber, into the top, but it is direct drive. So I just wanted to mention that. Other than like those little features, this is the same printer, but they've added a heated chamber to it. And honestly, that makes this an exciting option now, because we can answer the question with, yeah, we can totally. This printer is just fine. It has the heated it has the heated temperature for the chamber, which gives greater success. It has all of the like the AMS is with it, so you can have that play factor still, which is, let's be honest, when this printer came up, it wasn't about in our conversation, because remember, it was just the regular X1 at that point. Um, let's be honest, it came up because this is cool. It's not because it answered the strong printing question 100%. It was the AMS was cool. And Bamboo Lab knows that because, spoiler alert, the AMS is cool. Right? And lots of people try to use it's been used on other printers now as well. I forget, there was some firmware for an Ender 3 that has it now. So like it looks like we might, thanks to the at large nerds, we might see the AMS on other printers. But so Print Strong turned into this large debate, and it actually lined up with, hey, what was the best of 2023 and what can we look forward into 2024? And I think that's the answer right there. Iteration. 2024 will be the iterative year. AI at the moment really doesn't have a really big place in 3D printing for like STL generation. And if you use, I know I showed a long time ago ChatGPT making some actual useful code for Marlin. It hallucinates a lot now. It's been trained, shall we say? So, and just so you know, the list price on the Enterprise X1 Carbon was about 2,600 US. So you're getting. I honestly believe that the chipset on the Wi-Fi for the Bamboo Lab Carbon series, the X1 series, is the same. They just turned on features. So um so it's 25 20, I think it said 26 actually for the AMS, and the X1 Carbon with the AMS right now 1449. So it's $1,000 more. So you get 20 more degrees on the temperature, but the heated chamber. Now that being said, when we looked at the other printers, it's right in the ballpark, right? In fact, that might be a little lower because the Creality one would have been about 2,900 US, 27, and then the Create Bot's actually above both those price brackets at around the 45 ish US dollars. So they're bringing that enterprise printer from Bamboo Labs into the market at an enterprise price, but the feature set almost says go to the pet store and buy a heater for a terrarium and throw it in there and heat it like a lizard would. But I'm gonna hit the button. I'm gonna say some thank yous again. You guys are awesome. Thank you for being on this list. Patreons make the wheels go around. Thanks, Helge, at the top. Thanks, everybody else on the list. You're all super important to us. There's features, and there's going to be added features in 2024 for Patreon. Discord's a big one, so if you want to check it out, patreon.com/3dmakeit. And of course, I mentioned it before, but if you wanted to go and find the source for everything, it's 3dmakeit.ca. And then it'll have our Patreon links, the YouTube links. Although if you're watching this video, you already know the YouTube links. So, you know, you don't need it for that. But please like, share, and subscribe. That's how we can grow our little tribe here. And we sure appreciate y'all. So thank you again. So that's kind of like my Print Strong. Not and it's clear, like, and Ray does it too, and I do it, and I know lots of other people do it, and I if you want to print ABS, you can do it on an Ender 3 in a cheap box. Heck, I've seen people put garbage bags over their Ender 3 and then print ABS, and it works. But when it comes to reliable and print strong, heated chambers are a really good answer. And they do cost a bit of money, which is I, is it worth $1,000 to put a terrarium heater in your printer? I don't know, but that's kind of that conversation there. So I pose the question, and you can think about it. We could talk about it on Discord, but like, um, in 2024, what's important for you in 3D printing? Do you want to see more printers? Do you want to see printer companies become more responsible in how they handle things like filament recycling? Right at the end of 2023, we saw Stefan from CNC Kitchen build that filament recycler on his channel. If you haven't seen it, it's an open platform. You can use an old ender, which I might do, and start shredding some prints and making my own filament at home. Just see how it works, because that's a big part of the hobby. Like, we all love it. We all love printing, and when you print a functional part, it goes into production and it will stay where that function is required of it for a long time, and that's a huge use case for 3D printing, which I think manufacturers of all products are still missing, right? Can't go to the fridge website, find the hinge part that broke off, and then apply that. You have to actually measure the part out, make it yourself in some sort of CAD. So I think in 2024, my wish for like 3D printing innovation would be one, better CAD that's more accessible and more assistive, right? Because some people have mad skills when it comes to like Fusion 360, and I'm quite comfortable in it, and Greg is, right? But there's some people um, that is daunting in there, right? And so, like, we have Tinkercad, and that's very good for simple problems. But and I think we could use AI assistively inside of a AutoCAD development environment and to further that experience. So that's one thing. And then I think the next thing would be having printer companies standardize platforms when it comes to the use of firmware and how they decide, and it can be per company, but a standard approach to firmware and how it is distributed through which licensing, to make sure that the firmware is governed by fair use for one, and the other would be just so that we have a um, more level playing and open understanding of what we're buying when we're buying it, right? Frankly, I've reached capacity in my little print farm. I'm trying to get rid of. I want to sell two printers, a Chiron and an SX4. So that's my goal in the next month for the new year. So maybe if you're on the Discord and in the Patreon group, let's take some time and ponder that question. What in 2024? What do we hope for 3D printing, and what kind of changes do we see coming? And next week we will do the Patreon live stream, and then we can all jump on and mull that question over about 2024 and what's to come. But I'm gonna take my chilly butt upstairs because I'm in the basement and it's cold. Still minus 35, just in case you're wondering. That's parity. Almost with Fahrenheit now, so I don't have to convert it. It's cold. Um, so I'm going to bid you all adieu. But thank you so much for coming today and hanging out. And I appreciate your your presence on the channel and all the great conversations. So thank you. And remember, you can find us at 3dmakeit.ca for all of our links and stuff. You guys are great. Until next time, have a good one.